At 90 years old, Dame Judi Dench has finally broken her silence about her longtime friend, Dame Maggie Smith. For decades, their friendship has been one of the most talked about in the entertainment world. Yet, Judi has kept quiet until now. So, what made her decide to speak out? Join us as we uncover the details of this unexpected revelation and explore what Dench finally has to say. Beginnings of a legend. Maggie Smith was born on December 28, 1934, in Ilford, a suburb of East London in Essex, England. Her full name was Margaret Natalie Smith, but she would go on to become known around the world simply as Maggie. She was born into a middle-class family. Her father, Nathaniel Smith, was a pathologist and worked in public health, and her mother, Margaret Hutton, was a Scottish-born secretary. Maggie was the youngest of 3 children, and the only daughter with 2 older twin brothers. In the early years of her life, things were fairly typical, but when World War II broke out in 1939, life changed for the Smith family, like it did for many in Britain. During the war, they moved from Ilford to Oxford, a city about 60 miles away. Oxford was considered safer than London because it was less likely to be bombed. This move turned out to be very important in shaping Maggie's future. Though it was made for safety, it brought her closer to the world of theater and education. As a child in Oxford, Maggie was quiet and observant. She loved reading and developed a strong imagination early on. One of her first and strongest interests was Shakespeare. She was fascinated by the beauty of the language and the power of the stories. Even though she was young, the plays left a big impression on her. She often watched performances at the theater and began to dream about acting one day herself. She went to Oxford High School, an all-girls school where she wasn't always the most popular or outgoing student. But she stood out in one very important way. She was passionate about acting. She took part in school plays, sometimes playing major roles. These early performances helped her become more confident and gave her a glimpse into what her future might hold. Teachers and classmates began to notice that she had a rare talent. After high school, Maggie knew she wanted to act professionally. She started getting involved with the Oxford Playhouse, one of the city's major theaters. There, she had the chance to watch rehearsals and eventually take part in productions. It was her first experience working with professional actors and directors. She learned how the theater worked behind the scenes and began to understand how much hard work and dedication it required. Maggie also became a member of the Oxford University Dramatic Society, even though she wasn't a student at Oxford University. The society allowed her to act in more serious plays and meet other aspiring actors. At this point, her interest in Shakespeare turned into something deeper. She began to understand not just the stories, but the craft of acting, how to speak lines clearly, how to express emotions without overacting, and how to use silence as powerfully as words. Eventually, Maggie made the decision to attend the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London. RADA was, and still is, one of the most respected acting schools in the world. Getting in was competitive, but Maggie's audition stood out. She trained under skilled professionals and focused on voice, movement, and classical acting. It was an intense experience, but she learned a lot about stagecraft and professionalism. Next, we'll see how Maggie took her first steps into professional theater and began her journey to becoming a star. From stage to fame. After finishing her training, Maggie Smith didn't waste any time starting her acting career. In the early 1950s, she returned to Oxford, where she had spent much of her childhood, to work with the Oxford Playhouse Repertory Company. This was an important time in her life. It was her first chance to work as a professional actress on stage. The Repertory Company performed many different plays, often switching productions week by week, so the actors had to learn their lines quickly and be able to perform many roles in a short amount of time. Working in repertory theater helped Maggie sharpen her skills. She learned how to understand characters deeply and how to use her voice and face to express emotion. She also learned how to handle quick changes and tight schedules, which made her a strong and dependable performer. At the Oxford Playhouse, She acted in a wide range of plays, comedies, dramas, and especially Shakespeare. These early roles helped her build confidence and showed people that she had something special. Her big break came in 1959 when she joined the Old Vic, a famous theater company in London known for performing classical works, especially Shakespeare. This was a turning point in her career. The Old Vic had a strong reputation, and getting to act there was a big step for any actor. Maggie joined the company during a very exciting time. Many talented actors were performing there, and she quickly stood out among them. At the Old Vic, Maggie took on some of Shakespeare's most important female roles. She played Desdemona in Othello, Viola in Twelfth Night, and Cleopatra in Antony and Cleopatra. These are all complex characters who show different kinds of strength, love, and intelligence. Maggie brought something unique to each role. As Desdemona, she showed quiet dignity and a sense of inner sadness. As Viola, she balanced humor with deep feeling. As Cleopatra, she showed passion and pride, but also deep vulnerability. What made Maggie Smith stand out wasn't just that she could memorize lines or speak clearly. It was how she acted with thought and feeling. She used her intelligence to understand the characters deeply. She didn't just pretend. She made you believe that she really was the person she was playing. She had a special gift for showing emotion without being too dramatic. A small change in her face or voice could say just as much as a loud speech. That subtle emotional control made her performances feel real. Maggie also had great timing and a sharp sense of humor. Even in serious plays, she could find small, truthful moments that made people smile or laugh. She had wit, but it never felt forced. Her acting was full of grace and control, but it was never cold. She could go from warm and funny to serious and powerful in just a few moments. That range made her one of the most respected actresses of her time. In the 1960s, Maggie took another important step in her career when she began working with Laurence Olivier. He was one of the most famous actors and directors in Britain. Olivier invited her to join the newly formed National Theatre Company at the Old Vic. Working with him gave her even more opportunities to grow. She learned from his experience, and he clearly saw her potential. Together they worked on major productions, including more Shakespeare. She continued to earn praise from critics and audiences alike. Transition to film and international fame. By the late 1950s, Maggie Smith was already known as a talented stage actress in Britain. But it wasn't long before film directors began to notice her too. Her first big role in a movie came in 1958 when she starred in Nowhere to Go. It was a British crime thriller, and Maggie played a character named Bridget Howard. Though the film didn't become a major hit, her performance stood out. People began to realize that she could do just as well on screen as she did on stage. In 1963, she acted in The V.I.P.S., a movie filled with well-known stars like Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Maggie played Miss Mead, a secretary who becomes involved in the drama of wealthy travelers stuck in an airport. This role brought her more attention because it was a bigger production with international stars. It showed she could hold her own alongside famous names. Even though she wasn't the lead, her scenes were powerful and added heart to the film. Then came the role that would change her life. In 1969, Maggie played the lead in The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. This movie was based on a novel by Muriel Spark, and Maggie played a Scottish schoolteacher who believes she knows what's best for her students. The character was strong, smart, and deeply complicated. She influenced her pupils in ways both good and bad. Maggie gave a performance full of passion, emotion, and subtle control. Critics praised her deeply, and audiences were drawn to her powerful presence. For her role as Jean Brodie, Maggie won the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1970. This was a huge moment. She had gone from being a well-respected British stage actress to an international film star. The Oscar helped open doors in Hollywood, but Maggie didn't rush to take on every new offer. She was careful with her choices and continued to balance both stage and film work. In 1978, she delivered another incredible film performance in California Suite. This movie was a comedy written by Neil Simon, featuring several different stories that take place in a Los Angeles hotel. Maggie played an English actress named Diana Barry, who travels to the Oscars with her husband, played by Michael Caine. Their story was funny, but also filled with sadness. Diana struggles with the feeling that she may never win the award she wants so badly. The role allowed Maggie to show both humor and heartbreak at once. Once again, critics praised her work, and she won her second Academy Award, this time for Best Supporting Actress. Through the 1970s and 1980s, Maggie continued to act in both theater and film. She was always drawn back to the stage, especially to perform Shakespeare and other classic works. But at the same time, she made smart choices in her film career. She didn't take on roles just for the sake of staying visible. Instead, she chose characters that were interesting and meaningful. Her performances were always thoughtful, with a clear understanding of the character's emotions and story. In 1985, she starred in A Room with a View, a film based on the novel by E.M. Forster. Maggie played Charlotte Bartlett, a proper and anxious older woman who acts as a chaperone for her younger cousin during a trip to Italy. The role was small, but Maggie made a big impact. She brought humor and depth to the character, and her performance earned her yet another Academy Award nomination. The film itself became a major success and is still loved by many today. Then, in 2001, she appeared in another celebrated film, Gosford Park. This was a murder mystery set in a grand English country house in the 1930s. Maggie played Constance, Countess of Trentham, a snobbish but clever guest at the house. Her sharp lines and cold glances made her one of the most memorable characters in the film. Once again, she was nominated for an Oscar. Even though she didn't win that time, the role showed she was still at the top of her game. Magical Moments with McGonagall. By 2001, Maggie Smith had already built a career filled with awards, powerful stage performances, and respected film roles. But that year brought something new, something that would introduce her to millions of people all around the world, including many who had never heard of her before. She was cast as Professor Minerva McGonagall in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, also known as Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in the UK. It was the first movie in the series based on the best-selling books by J.K. Rowling. McGonagall is a very important character in the Harry Potter world. She is the deputy headmistress of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, the head of Gryffindor House, and a teacher of Transfiguration, a form of magic. She's also someone who values rules and discipline, but who clearly cares about her students. The role needed someone who could be strong and strict, but also wise, caring, and quietly emotional. Maggie Smith was the perfect choice. When the first Harry Potter movie came out, Maggie was already in her late 60s. She had years of experience playing smart, commanding women with strong voices and strong beliefs. From the first scene she appeared in, Maggie made McGonagall feel real. She stood tall, spoke clearly, and had a presence that made you want to listen to her. But she also added a quiet kindness to the role. You could see that she cared deeply for her students, even when she didn't show it openly. Throughout the 8 Harry Potter films, Maggie's version of McGonagall stayed true to the character in the books, while also adding new layers. She showed the professor's loyalty to Hogwarts, her deep respect for Albus Dumbledore, and her belief in standing up for what is right. In the final movie, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2, McGonagall finally has her moment to lead the school in battle against evil. One of the most memorable scenes is when she brings the castle's statues to life to defend it. Maggie delivers the line, "I've always wanted to use that spell," with a mixture of excitement and seriousness that fans still talk about today. One of the most amazing things about Maggie's role in the Harry Potter series is how it introduced her to a completely new generation. Children and teenagers who may have never seen her other films or stage work suddenly knew her as Professor McGonagall. For many young fans, she became a favorite character, someone who was tough but fair and who stood up for her students. Parents who had grown up watching her in other movies were happy to see her in a role that their kids could love too. One fun fact is that during the filming of some of the later Harry Potter movies, Maggie was quietly battling breast cancer. Yet she continued to work, saying that the job helped her stay strong. Most people on set didn't even know what she was going through because she never made a fuss. Late career renaissance. In 2010, Maggie Smith began another exciting chapter in her already long and successful career. That year, she took on the role of Violet Crawley, the Dowager Countess of Grantham, in the British historical drama series Downton Abbey. The show was created by Julian Fellowes and set in the early 20th century. It followed the lives of the aristocratic Crawley family and their servants at a large country estate in Yorkshire. Maggie's character quickly became one of the most beloved parts of the series. As Violet Crawley, Maggie played the strong-willed and sharp-tongued matriarch of the family. Her character was proud of her title and her family's traditions, but she also had a surprisingly open mind when it mattered most. Violet wasn't afraid to speak her mind, and her comments were often witty, clever, and cutting. From the very first episode, viewers loved her quick remarks and the way she could dominate a scene with just one sentence. Maggie brought depth to the role. She wasn't just playing an older woman with sharp opinions, she showed that Violet had wisdom, a strong sense of duty, and even a soft heart underneath her strong exterior. Over time, her character revealed more about her past and her complicated relationships with her son, Lord Grantham, and her granddaughters. Maggie played all of this with care and emotion, while still keeping Violet's humor and strength front and center. Downton Abbey quickly became a global success. It aired in over 100 countries and was especially popular in the UK and the United States. Critics and fans praised the show for its writing, acting, and historical detail, but Maggie Smith was often singled out as a highlight. Her performance earned her multiple awards. She won 3 Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series in 2011, 2012, and 2016, as well as a Golden Globe Award in 2013. These honors proved that Maggie, even after decades in the business, was still at the top of her game. Many people began calling her the Queen of the One-Liner. This nickname came from the many unforgettable lines her character delivered. Whether she was questioning the purpose of a weekend or offering her sharp opinion on modern life, Violet always had something memorable to say. These quotes were shared widely on social media and in magazines. Younger fans who hadn't seen her earlier work now admired her for her wit and timing. Even those who didn't normally watch period dramas tuned in just to see what Violet Crawley would say next. But behind the spotlight, there was always the woman herself, kind, private, and deeply loyal to her friends, including one very special person we'll talk about next. Behind the curtain. While Dame Maggie Smith is known around the world for her unforgettable performances, her personal life has always been far more private and quietly lived. Away from the spotlight, she has faced challenges, enjoyed deep personal relationships, and shown the kind of resilience that helped shape the strong characters she often plays on screen. In 1975, Maggie Smith married the British playwright Beverly Cross. The two had known each other for many years before marrying, and their bond was strong. Cross was a supportive partner who understood the demands of her acting career, having worked in the theater world himself. Their marriage lasted over 2 decades until his death in 1998. His passing was a painful loss for Maggie, and she has spoken with great fondness and sadness about him in the few interviews where she's mentioned her private life. Though she has not remarried, those close to her say their relationship left a lasting mark on her heart. Maggie and Beverly had 2 sons, Chris Larkin and Toby Stevens, both of whom followed artistic paths. Toby Stevens is the better known of the two and has built a strong acting career of his own, appearing in film, television, and theater. He starred as the villain Gustav Graves in the James Bond film Die Another Day, and later played Captain Flint in the television series Black Sails. Maggie has rarely spoken about her children in the press, preferring to keep her family life away from public attention, but it's clear that she is proud of them and has supported their careers quietly and lovingly. Despite her long and successful career, Maggie Smith has not been untouched by health challenges. In the 1980s, she was diagnosed with Graves' disease, an autoimmune condition that affects the thyroid. The disease can cause a range of symptoms, including weight loss, fatigue, anxiety, and eye problems. For Maggie, it became visible in the form of bulging eyes, which led to her undergoing radiotherapy and eye surgery. Even while dealing with this difficult condition, she continued to perform on stage and screen, never letting her illness define her or slow her down. Then, in 2007, she faced another major health battle: breast cancer. She was diagnosed during the filming of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Many people didn't know at the time, but Maggie was undergoing treatment, chemotherapy, while still filming her scenes as Professor McGonagall. In a later interview, she admitted how exhausting and emotionally draining it was, saying it left her knocked sideways. Still, she didn't stop working. Her decision to continue acting through her illness was a clear sign of her strength and dedication to her craft. She has since recovered and has been in remission for many years. And in her final chapter, one special friendship and a tender farewell would show just how deep that strength and her heart truly goes. Judi Dench and Maggie Smith. Dame Judi Dench and Dame Maggie Smith, two of the most celebrated actresses in British theatre and film, shared more than just success. For over 60 years, they shared a deep and lasting friendship that was built on respect, humor, loyalty, and a lifetime of working side by side. Their friendship began in the 1960s, during a time when both women were rising stars on the British stage. They had similar roots in classical theatre, both spending time with the Old Vic and the National Theatre, performing Shakespeare and other major works. Even from the start, people noticed how different they were. Maggie, with her dry wit and sharp delivery, and Judi, with her warmth and natural charm. But those differences made them a great match. They respected each other's styles and found comfort in each other's company. Their first major collaboration on screen was in A Room with a View, where both played strong supporting roles in the romantic drama set in Edwardian England. Maggie played the tightly wound Charlotte Bartlett, and Judi played the cheerful novelist Eleanor Lavish. The film's success helped introduce them as a pair to international audiences, and it was clear even then how well they worked together. They teamed up again in Tea with Mussolini, a film about a group of Englishwomen living in Italy during the Second World War. This movie gave both actresses more time on screen together and allowed them to showcase their powerful emotional range. Judi played the kind and brave Arabella, while Maggie played the proud and slightly snobbish Lady Hester. The roles allowed them to challenge each other and, at the same time, support one another through difficult scenes. It was a deeply personal project for them, and they often spoke about how special the experience was. In 2004, they starred in Ladies in Lavender, a quiet drama about two elderly sisters in Cornwall who take in a young, injured Polish violinist. Judi played Ursula, and Maggie played Janet. Their performances were subtle and moving, and the film was praised for showing the gentle strength of older women, a theme both actresses had come to represent in real life. Their on-screen chemistry came from decades of trust and shared history. In public, some people like to imagine a rivalry between Judi and Maggie, perhaps because they were often nominated for the same awards or played similar types of roles. But both actresses always shut those rumors down. Judi once said, "Maggie is one of my closest friends. I couldn't do half of what she does." Maggie, known for her dry humor, joked once, "If people think we're rivals, they should see us laughing over tea." Their bond was real, filled with respect and a shared history that went far beyond competition. Judi Dench's tribute. In September 2024, the world lost one of its greatest actresses when Dame Maggie Smith passed away at the age of 89. The news touched fans across generations, from those who admired her Shakespearean roles to children who knew her as Professor McGonagall. But for her closest friend, Dame Judi Dench, the loss was deeply personal. After decades of shared memories and performances, Judi had to say goodbye to someone who had become like family. Just a week after Maggie's passing, Judi appeared at the Cheltenham Literature Festival on October 5, 2024. It was one of her first public appearances since losing her longtime friend. During a conversation on stage with actor Brendan O'Hea, Judi was asked about grief and what it had meant to her. O'Hea referenced something she had once said, that grief was like petrol, something that fueled and energized emotion. But when she tried to answer, Judi became overwhelmed. She started to speak, saying, "I suppose because the energy that's created by grief," and then trailed off in tears. The audience sat quietly, sharing in the moment. It was clear that her grief for Maggie was still raw. Later, Judi shared a quiet and touching tribute she had made in Maggie's honor. For years, Judi has planted trees in memory of friends and fellow actors who have passed away. At her home in Surrey, there is a personal forest filled with these living memorials. Each tree represents someone who was close to her: actors, artists, and dear companions. It's her way of remembering them not just in thought, but through something that continues to grow and live. For Maggie, Judi chose to plant a crab apple tree. On the day of Maggie's funeral, Judi's gardener, Joe, brought her a small crabapple from the tree. Judi said in a BBC interview that she carried the apple in her pocket during the service. "Joe, who works for me, came in and he had one little crabapple," she recalled. "And so I had it in my pocket at her funeral, which was a very nice thing to have." That small, quiet gesture spoke volumes. It was personal and full of meaning, just like their friendship. Judi's forest includes trees for several other beloved figures in the acting world. Alan Rickman, known for his roles in Harry Potter and Die Hard, has a tree there. So does Helen McCrory, the powerful actress from Peaky Blinders and Harry Potter. Natasha Richardson, the talented actress and daughter of Vanessa Redgrave, is also remembered. And Stephen Sondheim, the legendary composer and lyricist behind Broadway hits like Sweeney Todd and Into the Woods, has his own place among the trees. If you enjoyed learning about their incredible friendship and tribute, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this.